meeting for November the 21st to order at 6 even. And I appreciate everybody being here. If you would, all please stand, remove your hats, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. If you wouldn't mind, please remain standing if you can. We are going to address our line of duty deaths that have taken place since our last meeting together.
Since our last meeting, we have lost 6 of our brothers and sisters, which, as you've known from the past couple of months, is an improvement, and we're grateful there's not more. That brings our year total for line of duty deaths to 134. On 10/19/24, Kelly Smith, 57 years old, of suicide from PTS-related illness in Toronto, Ontario. October 21st, Garrett Miller, 44 years old, from a heart attack, Barstow, California. October 22nd, Robert Sharkey Sharkovich, Sr., 66 years old. On the fire ground, he was killed in a UTV accident while fighting a wildfire in Wethersfield, Connecticut. October 12th, Marcelo Garcia III, 42 years old, at a structure fire, Houston, Texas. November 12th, Jason Woodruff, 53 years old, occupational cancer, Jacksonville, Florida. And November 20th, John Walsh, 60 years old, he collapsed on the fire ground, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Please join us in just a moment of silence. Thank you very much. All right, I have a roll call of members. I see everyone is here, but Director Devaney, I understand that she is online. Ms. Irvin, do you show her online?
I do.
Okay, perfect. We are all in attendance. I'd ask my fellow board members if there's any additions, deletions to the agenda. I'm going to make a quick addition where it will formally show that public comment will take place after item 5 and before item 6, and then public comment again after item 8 before item 9. Is everybody all right with that? Issues? Any other additions? Yes.
You mentioned that the first one was provided.
Yes, I will do that. We'll go to it. Any other additions or deletions to the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor of approving the agenda as presented?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Devaney. All right. We have suspended all business in light of the issues that we have tonight. There will be 2 items that will be addressed. That will be Elks Creek 2025's budget. And the second item will be the Unification resolution. There will be opportunities for public comment, which I'll address specifically as we get into each item. No other business will be accomplished this evening. Everything that we would normally do will be deferred outside of those 2 action items to the December minutes, or to December meeting, excuse me. All right, so I want to read something just about how the first public comment period will go. We will be addressing the 2025 budget for Elk Creek. This will now be the time for the public hearing on the issue of the 2025 budget. Members of the public who signed up to provide comments are welcome to provide these comments for the board's consideration related to the budget. Each speaker will be provided 3 minutes to address the board. In addition, this is not a time for interactive discussion or answering of questions by the board, but a time for public to provide input to the board for its consideration in making its decision on the budget. As is true for all public comment periods of the district, we request that you keep your comments respectful and that you are focused on the issue at hand. And again, for this particular hearing that we're about to have, it will be related to the proposed 2025 budget. We have no public comment signed up for the budget.
Well, that was the budget.
We do have one signed up for the budget?
No,
Okay,
but I'll let you introduce the director.
all right, perfect. Any letters or emails that were received related to the budget, they will be kept as part of the hearing records, so we will not read them out loud. So let's go straight into the issue at hand then, and first discuss the budget. Chief?
Yep. All right. So if everybody remembers last year at this time with our budget hearing, it was a very nebulous budget due to some of the House bills that were passed at the end of the hour. So we really didn't even know what we were getting until the end of December. This year, it is a lot like that for slightly different reasons. This budget represents the best estimate of expected revenues and anticipated costs for 2025. All the projected revenues and expenditures will change as more complete information is available. In the end, the budget will be, even after an adoption, an estimate of the revenue and the expenditures will change depending on the outcome of the unification. If the unification is approved, the three districts will combine their budgets into one in January for the unified district. If the unification is not approved, there is a high probability that Intercanyon Fire Protection will no longer subsidize several of our programs that we have in place now. We will have an approximate $400,000 budget shortfall that we will have to address. With either option, this budget is going to see significant changes with the current document you're looking at and will not be the spending plan for 2025. The budget is broken down into areas where money is spent. The final numbers are easier to find and see what certain programs cost and how they impact the district. So for 2025, again, we did run the budget, but this will not be what we'll be working off of depending on how tonight goes. Either direction, we're going to make significant changes. So it's expected to be a flat budget compared to this year. Same with specific ownership taxes, investment income, ambulance billings, and lease revenues. Everything should stay about the same. Revenues for our wildland activities are budgeted to be about $200,000 higher than 2024, and they're calculated as a function of expected expenditures. The fuels crew and fleet department, that's going to be one of the wild cards because, as you know, Intercanyon does subsidize both those programs. We have those budgeted at right around $250, $225 to $250. If they are no longer subsidizing that, that is something that we will have to absorb. Mitigation grants, we have $50,000. We have we have a number of grants out there, but again, we don't usually put them in the budget because they're not guaranteed. Operating expenses are budgeted for $6 million, $6.5 million. A increase over 2024 of $778,000. Non-surf, non-wildland labor expenses are up $431,000 due to increased labor costs. In addition to benefits. Benefits have gone up as well. Surf labor expenses are up as well at $134,000 for the same reason, and they're recovered in revenues, so they're cost neutral in the end. The number of assignments and where we got that number for surf revenue is based on this year. We usually try and go a little bit lower each year. It's a shot in the dark. It depends on what the fire season brings. Other expenses are up $175,000 from last year. Notable differences from 24 include liability and workman's comp. It's up 20%, which is quite a thing. We didn't even have any work comp claims last year. It's just everything's going up. Our insurance is going up as well. That's our boiler. We might have to get a new boiler, so that might go in the budget as well. I don't even know what to say. That was perfect. So surf expenses are budgeted to increase by about $36,000. Other costs are expected to increase at a very moderate level just due to general inflation pressures. Capital expenditures are budgeted at $865,000. That's an increase of $295,000 over 2024. Reason being, we're going to have to make the final payments on 2 new ambulances. which we're guesstimating it's going to be right around 400 to put them in service. We're going to have to get them install radios, et cetera, et cetera. Fire, wildland, and facility capital has been increased by a total of $95,000 to ensure a continuation of existing projects, as well as in order to address some unanticipated repairs and improvements with long-term benefits to the district. What we're looking at is some infrastructure improvements at Station 2, another utility vehicle for fleet maintenance, and some other projects at the stations. But again, depending on how this goes, this will merely be a suggestion.
And how long the boiler lasts.
The boiler is going to be a thing. We actually just had somebody work on it 3 weeks ago, which is quite spectacular. He said it was going to be about $30,000 for a new one.
Okay, thank you, Chief, for that. Mr. Camille, would I be correct in entertaining a motion to approve the budget as presented so that we could get into discussion?
Yeah, so at this point, moving into the resolutions as the action items. So yeah, you could seek a motion on 2024-11-21, which is the resolution concerning the adoption of a budget and appropriation of funds for fiscal year 2025.
And as Mr. Camille referenced, I would entertain a motion for Resolution 24-11-21.
Make a motion.
So moved.
That'd be a second, Director Devaney. Are you comfortable with that?
Comfortable.
Okay, all right. Discussion on the motion. Do we have any discussion or points of information direct for the chief? Discussion?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Chief Ware, what is the, for clarification, what is the current mill set at?
Well, I'll have to look at the calculation. 12,551, I believe.
Thank you, sir.
Any other discussion? Last time, any other discussion? Okay, there was a motion made by Director Wood, seconded by Director Devaney, that there was approval of resolution concerning the adoption of budget and appropriation. That is Resolution 24-11-21. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against?
No.
That's 3 affirmative, 1 negative. That motion carries. That will lead us to Resolution 24-11-21-2, the resolution to set mill levies. I would entertain a motion so that we can get into discussion.
So moved.
Motion made by Director Devaney,
Second.
second by Director Woods. All right, discussion on the motion related to resolution of setting the mill levies.
I will vote in favor of this, but I have a question in that this particular resolution says 12.5 mils, but our mills are basically 12.551. So does this need to be changed?
No, because that depends on refunds and abatements.
Okay.
There's always, it varies depending on what that looks like, way down in the hundreds and on down.
Thank you.
Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the motion.
No more discussion. No discussion. No discussion.
All right. There was a motion made by Director Vaney, seconded by Director Woods, that we accept Resolution 24-11-21-2, the resolution to set mill levies. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those against?
No.
That's 3 in affirmative and 1 against. That resolution carries. Our last resolution related to the budget is the resolution transferring assets and delegating authority. That's Resolution 24-11. Again, I will entertain a motion so that we can get into discussion related to the resolution.
So moved.
Motion made by Director Devaney,
Second.
second by Director Woods. Discussion on the motion. Discussion on the motion. Last time, discussion on the motion. Hearing none, there was a motion made by Director Vaney, second by Director Woods, to accept Resolution 24-11, the resolution transferring assets and delegating authority. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those against?
No.
That's 3 in affirmative, 1 in negative. That motion carries. Okay. That leads us into public comment for item 9. If I could, thank you, Chief. I will mention again that all emails and letters that were received will be kept as part of the hearing records. They will not be read out loud. I trust all of my fellow board members have received and read, and we will move just strictly into public comment. And as a point of information, those online that are wishing to speak publicly, we were going to move through those that signed up for public comment here in person first before we transition to those on Zoom who wish to speak publicly. And as a last note of information, as we go into the public hearing for the issue of the proposed exclusion resolution for all property within Elk Creek, subject to immediate inclusion into North Fork, members of the public who signed up to provide comments are welcome to provide comments to the board's consideration related to the proposed exclusion resolution. Each speaker will be provided 3 minutes to address the board. In addition, this is not a time for interactive discussion or answering questions by the board, but a time for the public to provide input to the board for its consideration in making its decision on the proposed exclusion resolution. As is true for all public comment periods of the district, we request that you keep your comments respectful. I reiterate that. Keep your comments respectful. We will maintain decorum and we will maintain a professional nature. Lastly, we're going to focus only on the issue at hand, and there will be no calling out of any individual by name. For this particular hearing, this is how for this particular hearing, that is the proposed exclusion resolution. Again, all letters will be held in our hearing records. All right, that will lead us to our very first public comment, and that would be Mr. Whitehead. If you would, please stand or sit in the center so that you can be recorded and we will all be able to hear what you have to say. I will need a timekeeper since Director Devaney is not here. Do I have somebody that would volunteer? Mr. Camille will handle the time.
Good.
Proceed, Mr. Whitehead.
I'd like to give my comment in writing here.
Thank you.
Neil Whitehead III, against the resolution in order of exclusion. In November 2023, 3,057 voters of the Oak Creek Fire Protection District rejected consolidation with North Fork and Inner Canyon. And this ballot issue of rejection won by 132 votes. In our exceptional nation, the results of the ballot box are to be accepted without question. And according to the pre-consolidation agreement, the 3 districts can have as many attempts to bite the apple of consolidation as they want. I did not know at the time what could not be achieved at the ballot box would be attempted to be taken by brute force through another so-called legal mechanism. This is clearly democracy denied, and the end does not justify the means. I was dumbfounded when out of the blue, in August 2024, the three chiefs decided to override the voters' decision and not just to stifle, but eliminate political opposition by going the route of annexation. Clearly, the three fire districts are afraid to put this unification consolidation question before the voters again, and found a way to attempt to, quote, legally bypass the ballot box. What am I asking for? Stop the unification and consolidation process until the electors of Elk Creek Fire Protection District give permission, if they ever do. The central premise of democracy is that the governors, in this case, the Elk Creek Board, accept the will of voters who rejected consolidation in November 2023, place unification consolidation on the ballot again in May or November 2025. Unification consolidation is a highly contentious issue. At least one more vote on this question is essential to the democratic process. I believe the county commissioners and the district judge will agree. If unification does not come to pass, or unification does come to pass, when the inevitable mill levy appears on the ballot, you, the board, are risking... Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. That will lead us into Ms. Rothman.
30 seconds.
Oh, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
What you said time.
I'm sorry.
If unification does come to pass, when the inevitable mill levy appears on the ballot, you, the board, are risking loss of that ballot issue because of your brutish treatment of the voters in this matter tonight. Think about it. Save Elk Creek Fire.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehead. That'll lead us to Ms. Rothman.
My name is Katie Rothman. I live in Conifer and I am the ambassador for Conifer Mountain. Anyone who has been somewhat involved in the fire district understands the amount of professionals, volunteers, and special knowledge and skills it takes to run this district. And would also understand that unification is absolutely in the best interest of our community. Thanks to impeccable transparency, we know unification will streamline the processes, which will aid and improve those response times. But I'd also like to talk about the benefits to some of the smaller programs. Unification will also benefit the chipping program, where we are barely keeping up with the needs, if that's what you want to call it. Unification will also better position us with state and federal grants. And I implore you all to think about that for a moment. Unification will also be a great benefit to Ambassador Program, who is spreading awareness and resources to get ahead of the emergencies. We may not wear badges. Some of us are only 5 feet tall. But we are also Elk Creek volunteers and members. It shouldn't be this hard to talk to the community about what we need. But the reality is that there has been a lot of hoodwinking, lies, half-truths at best when it came to the discussion of unification. Unification is wanted and is very much needed. I ask you to trust the professionals and support us, even your shortest volunteers. These professionals and supporting cast members are also our neighbors and community members. They live here with us. So board, I understand and respect that you are putting your name down on something historic and monumental, and I am glad I am not in your seat. But I am asking you to please, please, please listen to us. This is needed, this is wanted, please.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rothman. That'll lead us to Ms. Liz, forgive me, I don't want to slaughter your name. Is it Fredina?
Fedina.
Oh, thank you.
My name is Liz Medina. My husband Tom and I live in Inner Canyon Fire Protection District. Tom is a volunteer EMT for Inner Canyon, and I am a community ambassador representing the Doubleheader Hillview Planning Unit, which includes parcels in both Inner Canyon and Elk Creek. I mention this to provide context for my remarks, but I speak to you as a resident, not as a representative of the districts. Through our volunteer work with the fire districts, my husband and I have had the opportunity to work under Chiefs Sherlaw, Ware, and Rogers. They are three of the most hardworking, knowledgeable, and honorable men we know. We literally trust them with our lives. And we trust them to know what is best for the safety and well-being of this community. The recent quarry fire's positive outcome is just one testament to their expertise, foresight, and wisdom. The wisdom to ask for help when existing resources are insufficient to protect us. The incredible hard work of our firefighters, coupled with the additional resources that they had the wisdom to request during the quarry fire, saved our beautiful mountain community. Tonight, they again demonstrate great wisdom in requesting additional resources, this time to handle increased call volume and acuity, resources that Unification will provide. For the sake of our community, I strongly urge you to trust the Chief's wisdom and to vote yes to unify our districts. Thank you.
Thank you. That will lead us to Ms. Mosier.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Katie Mosier. I live in Aspen Park with my family. I hate public speaking, so forgive me if I trip over my words. But after sitting through several recent fire board meetings, the voice that I haven't heard spoken is that of those of us who both live, work, and recreate in Elk Creek's districts. Those of us who are raising our families here. My family sits in the corner. My experience with Elk Creek Fire was very personal in 2021 when I had a chimney fire in my house. So I know what it is to hear the pop of your chimney as it starts on fire, and what it's like to lead your children out into the dark in December in the middle of the night with the 911 dispatcher on the phone. So I know what it feels like for that eternity until you see a fire truck pull up to the top of your driveway. And I cannot express to you my gratitude to the folks of Elk Creek Fire that showed up that night. That same gratitude that I felt when one of my neighbors had a medical emergency, and my husband and I were there with that person for what felt like an eternity. It was only minutes. But those minutes matter. All of those things turned out fine. I was lucky. My house is still standing. My neighbor was fine. Not everyone is so fortunate. And those minutes matter. The neighbors and acquaintances that I've talked to about this unification issue, we're concerned about how long it takes emergency response to get to our homes. My children attend school in Elk Creek's district, and I work in North Works district. I am concerned about how long it would take an ambulance to get to my children's school if one of them had a medical emergency. The constituents of the district that I've spoken to, who are my neighbors and my friends, we're not so concerned about pennies on the dollar mill levy increases. We are concerned about the quality of the service that we and our families receive. And I would like to think that everyone in this community shares those same concerns. We have trusted, the night that I called Elk Creek, I trusted the professional paid and volunteer firefighters that showed up on my doorstep to protect my property, protect my family, and protect me and my spouse. And they have provided that service flawlessly. I also would ask the question of why, if we have not one but 3 professional fire chiefs providing recommendations to us about how to make our departments more sustainable and improve the quality of the service that their residents and constituents are receiving, or why are we not taking their advice? I, as a professional, listen to paid professionals and value their experience, wisdom, and education. And board members, I would encourage you to do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mosier. That'll lead us to Mr. Shine.
Prefer a sit or stand, madam?
As long as we can get them on. Cool.
My name's Ken Shine. I live at Pine Junction. I've been a volunteer here at Elk Creek for 7 years. I've read the online, heard the comments regarding unification. We've already heard and will hear more of them tonight. I feel that some of us are missing a point. We got so wrapped up in the politics and the arguments that we've forgotten the underlying reason why this fire protection district exists. Chief Ware and this board owe it to the people of the district to provide the best emergency services they can within established budgets. Let me be clear. The best way to provide emergency services is by having full-time staff in as many stations as the district can afford. If you're in Denver, Dallas, LA, New York, there's a fire station every few blocks because they have a huge tax base to pay for it. Obviously that's not practical here in the rural areas, especially up here in the mountains, so we have to get creative and do the best we can. As residents of this district, we should applaud Chief Ware and the other chiefs for finding ways to improve emergency services while staying within the established budget. The Unification Plan will provide additional full-time staff. Not only does this improve response times within the current Inter-Canyon district where they'll be housed, but it also provides improved services for all three districts. Having more full-time staff gives the district more flexibility on where to put them, how to cover for sickness, injury, vacations, also how to optimize coverage during an incident. Second calls, as an example, under the unified district will be responded to immediately without the additional delay of having to call for mutual aid and then wait for volunteers to drop what they're doing and get to a station to pick up necessary equipment. Also, larger, more complex calls requiring additional personnel and equipment will be responded to immediately through having those additional staff 24/7. Imagine, if you will, a multi-vehicle crash, house fire that spreads to additional buildings, or, heaven forbid, a major incident at one of our schools. 1 minute. Having additional full-time personnel is clearly an improvement in service levels for all residents. Again, kudos to Chief Ware and the other two chiefs for managing their budgets to make this an option. Volunteers will remain a critical part of the district and will respond the same as they do today. While volunteerism is declining across the country, and we are no exception, we have fewer volunteers than we have ever had before. While we appreciate everything they do, they simply cannot be as responsive as 24/7 staff. And I say this as a volunteer of 7 years. I will respond to your calls, but it will always take me a few more minutes than the duty crew. Those few minutes are critical when you're the person waiting for help.
15 seconds.
Bottom line is that additional full-time staff will result in faster response times when you need those emergency services. The fact that Chief Ware and the other chiefs have been able to improve these services yet stay within current budget is a credit to their ongoing stewardship of your tax dollars. Trust them to do their jobs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shine. That leads us to Ms. Stroke.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Trope and I reside in Lakewood in West Metro's district. My business has operated in this area for over 14 years. I am a former resident of the Elk Creek Fire District and a current volunteer at Elk Creek Fire. I am testifying in my capacity as a concerned citizen and an area business owner. I started attending Elk Creek Fire Board meetings in 2012 after the Lower Norfolk fire and some insensitive comments by the Elk Creek PIO at the time congratulating Elk Creek Fire on a job well done. I walked in with my camera ready to record and find out what was going on in this district. What I found was a new chief who was determined to improve how this district had been run, clean up the good old boys club that had been here, and who fully embraced transparency. He welcomed me with open arms to record these meetings, which I have done for the last 12 years. To date, 12 years later, this is the only district for which you can watch the majority of those past meetings anytime you wish, which I contend is a huge testament to transparency which this district gets unfairly accused of not being. Over the past 12 years, I've become very familiar with how this district runs, its challenges, successes, and its people. It has always passed third-party independent audits of its budget, spent less than budgeted, and generated more income than projected. It has met all promises made with the last 2 Levies, which I was proud to help pass despite opposition making false claims that I sadly see some of my former friends of Elk Creek Fire compatriots repeat now. This district has brought in over $1 million in grants, implemented a highly popular and successful chipping program, and built a first-class wildfire suppression module whose services are requested nationwide, and all of this directly benefits our residents and our community. Opponents of this unification voted against a second chipping truck, claimed that the fire district is competing with mitigation companies and is negatively viewed as a service, has misled residents about what the mill levy will be if we should unify, and stated that they will be filing a lawsuit to stop unification. It's a shame that a small group of people against this unification will cause taxpayer funds to be spent on legal fees rather than going towards programs, apparatus, and personnel that would make our residents and our community safer. 90% of Elk Creek Fire volunteers and career staff support this unification. It will result in better services at no additional cost to our residents. I urge the board to vote in support of this resolution so that our fire districts can better meet the challenges of overlapping calls, higher volume of calls, higher acuity calls, and the higher fire danger that our community faces. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stroh. That leads us to Mr. Davidson.
You don't mind if I stand to you?
No, sir.
Board members, chief, neighbors, we have a big threat, and it really, really surprises me that the public does not understand or see the threat. It is all around us. It has happened since I was a small child growing up here. I grew up at the bottom of Kings Valley, next to Elk Creek Fire Station, and was friends with the Long brothers. My current residence is just a stone's throw from where we are right now. I've got a little background in the fire service. The problem with firefighting today is that in the old days when we had very few residents and very little fire impact and very few volunteers, we could handle that regardless of what the impact was. Volunteers had the time and would step up. Those days are gone. The single person working in a family are gone. It is now both parents working, many of them multiple jobs, and they don't have the time to volunteer. Society doesn't really support volunteerism like it used to. And so we relied on paid firefighting staff to supplement the few volunteers that we have in the fire service. And those volunteers in the old days were firefighters. Now they're hazmat technicians. Now they're emergency medical technicians or paramedics. Their skills are wide and varied, and their training is extreme and very long and arduous. If you're going to do that on a volunteer basis, you can't afford to do that, and most departments can't afford large budgets for that. The call volume up here does not at all reflect the threat. This is a crazy situation in which we have a very large fire threat and a very large EMS threat, and we have very low call volume. It just is not there. But if you look around us at the history from just recently, not the fires that I saw when I was a little kid growing up, but just recently we had the quarry fire, just a stone's throw fire from here. Lucky that Jeff Coa and the state had pre-deployed aircraft that could get on that fire quick, because it was not in an area where we can fight fire on the ground without a very long delay and a lot of arduous work. The Upper Bear Creek fire, I was here, I was home. When the first aerial bomber flew right over my house, I knew exactly what it was, and I knew we were in trouble, and I went down and talked to my buddy at the fire station, and he said, yeah, there's a fire that popped up in Evergreen. Two things saved Upper Bear Creek from burning to the ground and killing everybody up in that valley. One was the fact that pre-deployed aircraft were at Centennial, just like we had recently. They had just started, they had just gotten there. Had they not been there, Upper Bear Creek probably would have burned. The other thing happened was we had some weather come in that night, and that fire calmed down. We did not have extreme fire behavior. But it can happen up here. It happens all over the place. The Marshall fire, biggest fire in the state's history, fatalities. Not even 35 miles from here is where it started. The Hayman fire, just over the hill and down in the valley, burned for months. Very, very large fire, made national news, just like many of the other fires. The East Troublesome Gulch fire, just our friends just to the north within an hour, hour and a half, burned for a very, very long period of time and burned hundreds of houses. We are lucky here that it hasn't happened, but it will. It's not if, it will. We may not all be alive, but it will happen here. What stops those fires? Firefighters and equipment. That's it. That's what stops those fires. Nothing else. If you are a fire chief, you have equipment and you have firefighters and maybe a little bit of luck. So if you think that consolidation is a bad thing, it's not a bad thing when you get rid of multiple duplications of audits and multiple paid positions. So thank you for your time.
That will lead us to Ms. Kowalski.
Kathy Kowalski. I've been here 45 years. I hadn't planned to talk tonight until I saw the core values that were put up there. And I feel that integrity and honesty are missing from this board if they go ahead with something that the voters did not pass. I think that you had an election, you spent a lot of money towards an election. If you were going to do it anyway, then that wasn't being fiscally responsible with the money in the fire department if you didn't need to do that anyway. It's not a small number of people that are against this, or it would have passed. So to ignore what your people want in the Elk Creek District is wrong. Any changes in this firehouse will affect our insurance costs. And so I have supported this department for 45 years in my taxes. I think that things should stay the same, and you can put it up for election again, but you have to go by what the people want. This is a democracy, and a democracy means that if there's a vote, and that's the way it goes, that you respect that. And I feel like the board should respect what the people said. If you want to do something later and have it voted on, I think that's fine. But to ignore what people want, I don't think that's right.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kowalski. That'll lead us to Mr. Hutchinson.
It doesn't make sense to change to the people of Elk Creek from the Elk Creek Fire Department to the North Fork Fire Department. The additional time to provide service does not work. From Elk Creek Road and Sunset Trail to Elk Creek to North Fork Station, using Elk Creek Road is 6.8 miles and 16 minutes by Jeep Patriot. The road is ice covered November to March. It's uphill and is single lane in several places. From North Fork Fire Department up 126 to the stoplight in Pine Junction is 6.3 miles and 10 minutes from the stoplight in Pine Junction to Elk Creek and Sunset Trail, 2.9 miles, 4 minutes, for a total of 9.2 miles and 13 minutes. Elk Creek Station, Pine Junction, to the stoplight is 0.6 miles and 1 minute. From the stoplight to Elk Creek and Sunset, 2.9 miles and 4 minutes, for a total of 3.5 miles and 5 minutes. Elk Creek Station, Richmond Hill, to Elk Creek and Sunset is 3.4 miles and 4 minutes. Elk Creek Fire Station, Aspen Park, to Elk Creek and Sunset is 7.6 miles and 9 minutes. All three Elk Creek stations can get to Elk Creek Road and Sunset Trail faster than North Fork Fire Department. Elk Creek Fire Department will not have to travel uphill, have better roads, and have paid firemen, not volunteers. Does this make those that live on Sunset Trail healthier, safer, more prosperous, more secure, or improve our general welfare? The answer is no. I do not have a problem with the consolidation of the fire departments, except for the unhealthy relationship of the fire department relationship with the board of directors. The board needs to be made up of the majority members from the community that do not have a relationship with the fire department. Currently, you cannot appeal anything to the board because they just refer you back to the fire chief or fire marshal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hutchinson. That'll lead us to Mr. Borkowski.
Good evening. My name is Mike Blaskowski, and my wife and I are residents of the Woodside subdivision. We've been there for about 30 years, and I just want to say we have always supported mill levy increases for the fire district. We feel like it's very important to be well funded. However, tonight, and I apologize, these are somewhat extemporaneous comments. I literally just saw this about 2 hours before the meeting here. We've been gone all summer and going to a lot of mail and digging through things, and all of a sudden I read this and said, wait a minute, what is this? So my late knowledge of this, but I'm speaking really to ask that this be slowed down a little bit. I understand it was first voted on in September, and then this is going to be the final vote. And my concern, again, I have always supported this district, my wife and I, but my concern is that I really feel it contravenes the vote of the people that was previously held. And other people have spoken to that point here tonight as well, that if this is going to happen, then this should be a vote referendum and should go before the people again. I'm really baffled that this is possible to be done just on a board vote. If it is, why did it ever go to a vote of the people? It certainly looks like a bit of a, to be polite, an end run around, the process that really would have let most of the voices in the district speak through their voting. And also, we're concerned about the financial impact of homeowners insurance. I'm not sure if that has been, again, I apologize not being here during the summer, but has that really been well assessed? Do we expect that we're going to have lower costs, or we're going to hold down the cost of homeowner insurance by this process?
1 minute.
My understanding may be incorrect, but that the North Fork Fire District isn't as well rated by the insurance companies as Elk Creek is. So anyhow, understanding that issue is what I would ask that this slow down a little bit so we can understand that, so that it can be presented. And lastly, the impact on the overall fire protection. Many people have spoken to that tonight. Is this really going to improve the health and welfare, the prosperity, everything that was in the letter across the entire consolidated district? What will be the individual impacts? For example, the Elk Creek Firehouse on Mount Evans will have to continue to be staffed. So those considerations are not explained in this letter. I haven't found it anywhere in the board meetings. And so again, the ask is that this be tabled for another session. And so some of these questions can be answered. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blaskowski. That'll lead us to Chris, I hope I get this right. Levies? Did I get that right?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, board. Whoever tells you they don't appreciate firefighters is not being truthful. My brother was a fallen firefighter, and thank you for all you've done for me, my family, and the community. In November, I voted against consolidation, and now using, I'm not sure if it's a statute or a law, you have circumvented our votes, and unification seems to be a done deal. I'm quietly resigned myself to this inevitable event, but I wish this had come to the voters to decide. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Levies. That'll take us to, is it Warren? Chris Warren? Did I say it? Is there Workin? Help me out. Section down.
Chris Warren?
It looks like Warren.
Warren.
Is there a Chris Warren?
Or Warren? Could be a Y in there.
Could be Y. Warren?
Is there a Chris?
Are there any Chris's? Raise your hand.
Chris.
See if we can figure out whose this is.
Okay, we'll look, Chris, if we pass over you, we'll give you a chance at the very end here. Next, that'll take us to Andy Fallon.
Thank you. I just want to put into record that has already been previously provided to the board members. This is to give voice. I've heard comments about votes, about voters being misled, and this will be in addition to some of the other comments. This is the voice of the people that who have actually picked up shovels, who have picked up picks, who have fought fires, who have actually been there. So this is from the collective voice of the people, the volunteers, and the paid. This is what they think if we ever ask them. So a survey that we'll go down, and I'll quickly talk about the survey, but I want to talk about the gist of it. And this is to the citizens of Elk Creek, Inter Canyon, and North Fork Fire Protection Districts here and after FPDs. Thank you. We have signed below are the men and women who have devoted and provided emergency services in your FPDs. We represent 100% of the 79 respondents, 78% of all members, to a formal survey to our 3 collective FPDs, professional firefighters and EMS personnel. Both paid, volunteer. 57 of the responders from Elk Creek Fire, representing 90% of its members. A total of 948 years of actual emergency respond experience. 556 of these years in Elk Creek Fire District alone. It is our professional belief that unifying our 3 FPDs as proposed by our respective fire chiefs is in the best interest of every person residing in each of the FPDs. The current arrangement of separate FPDs is not working well. With growing number of call numbers, severities, and overlap, as well as the increased mutual aid needs, we are consistently within 1 call of catastrophe in our service to our districts to their people. For these and other operational reasons, we believe that it will be much more effective in this community's care and service as a single unified FPD. In order to achieve more timely and more fully staffed emergency responses, we urge you to support with volunteer and career staff members alike, unification for our FPDs. We encourage and request that you encourage your FPD directors to vote yes on the unity of these FPDs and to support this fundamental change in how we work together. Unification will allow us to be more effective and efficient in providing our community the better level of emergency service that is necessary as this community evolves. So again, this is for the people that are doing the firefighting. And we haven't looked to them to say, do you collectively agree that this is right? And those people, not the board, have said this unification is the right thing to do.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coleman. That'll take us to Mr. Leo.
All right, good evening, everybody. My name's Al Leo, live at 19293 Silver Ranch Road, which is in Elk Creek Fire Protection District. Really appreciate the opportunity to speak with everybody. I'm part of an informal group of residents, concerned residents, not an organized LLC like COSECC, and we've been communicating with residents about the need for communication. We've been using the information provided by the fire district, and we're finding that it addresses people's questions about unification, and we're getting positive feedback about the plan. To that extent, I sent an email with a list of 60 people earlier today to every member, or to info, which was supposed to be forwarded. Those 60 people, 53 of which from Elk Creek Fire Protection District, have signed a statement of support. Statement of support is very simple. It says, I, the undersigned, urge the Elk Creek Fire Protection District Board of Directors to approve the unification of Elk Creek, Inter Canyon, and North Fork via the exclusion-inclusion process. Other residents that I communicated with have sent letters to this board as well. All the citizens mentioned above, Linda and I urge you to vote yes for unification. It's in the best interest of our friends, family, and community. Why support unification? Why do I support unification? 3 fire chiefs have very well articulated the challenges that they face, continuing to provide the current level of fire and EMS service, and how are they going to meet the anticipated demand going into the future. The chief's recommendation is unification. As we've just heard, 79 firefighters and EMT personnel with 948 years of experience recommend unification. You listen to the challenges that are being articulated by the fire district with respect to staffing and volunteerism. They're all well documented. Department of Fire Prevention and Control, Colorado State Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service. There was an article, Denver area nonprofits struggle with the decline in volunteerism, national trend impacting fire agencies. blood supply, food pantries, and senior services in our local Canyon Courier. The other fire districts facing these same challenges, they're taking action. Evergreen Fire Rescue, once considered a bastion of volunteerism by the opposition, just hired 6 full-time firefighters. Arvada in Fairmount Fire Protection just decided to merge. This isn't a lie perpetrated by the fire district. It's playing around all around us. Look around. There's been the opposition hasn't provided a viable alternative. Giving me a yellow shirt isn't a viable alternative. Vote yes for unification.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. That leads us to Mr. Cox.
The specs here, I can't remember that. Good evening, Flip Koch here. I reside in the Wombly Valley area. I'm also a volunteer member of this Fire Protection District, or FPD. The score is now 79-0, current emergency responders, or 948-0, their years of service, all in favor of unification. I too support the unification of Elk Creek, Kevin Canyon, North Fork FPDs and urge this board to vote and take all legal actions required for unification to occur. I must acknowledge, however, one voice of dissent on this board. He and a small cabal of fellow critics, all of whom have 0 current emergency operations experience, simply invent facts to suit their opinions. It is impossible to have a debate about opinions when we cannot even agree on what is and is not fact. So here are their 5 freshest fallacies. Fallacy number 1, unification equals consolidation. I spoke about this at last month's board meeting. I will not do so again. They are not the same. The net operational result of both may be similar, but operations should not be a matter for debate. Fallacy number 2, the people should decide this matter and already have done. The only matter people may have decided in November of 2023 was not to consolidate. Consolidation is not unification, so unification has not been decided upon by the people at the ballot box, nor should it be. Unification speaks to how the 3 FPDs are organized and operated. Per common sense and the very bylaws of this board, such operational matters of our FPD are reserved for the fire chief, and unification is what Chief Ware, together with Chiefs Sherlaw and Rogers, have proposed. You have an organized and operator FPD were reserved for the people. What about which engines to acquire, which personal protective equipment? What about the frequency and duration of bathroom breaks, or which calls answers and when? Fallacy number 3, unification was devised in secret. Both consolidation and unification were options recommended by third-party consultants to address the problems facing these FPDs here through combining them. Their studies are matters of public record, not secrets. Fallacy number 4, unification is illegal and undemocratic. Unification, exclusion, inclusion is part of Colorado Title 32-401 and 501, so it's quite legal. This board has the power to decide whether to unify, and that is entirely democratic, and we should not be lectured on democracy by this group. Persons who, through their words and deeds in the November 2023 election, showed such flagrant contempt for democratic principles or else fundamental ignorance of them. Fallacy 5, the minority group represents the people. They do not represent me or the other 78 emergency responders who took the survey, nor do they represent the people in general. They actually represent themselves and fellow cronies from the Conifer South Evergreen Community Committee, a special interest group led by a member of this very board and one seemingly devoted to stasis. Standing still will not keep us safe. In conclusion, be true to your oaths of office, make our community safer through combining our FPDs. Please vote for unification and vigorously defend, by whatever legal means necessary, this FPD's right to public safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cox.
And I've given each of you a classic on democracy.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. That'll lead us to Mr. Ham.
Yes, sir. Nathan Ham, lived in Conifer 3 years. December 26th will be 30 years in the fire service. I've been a volunteer, I've been a paid-on-call, I've been a paramedic for 28 years, worked for 3 different agencies, paid. And if you look at the wall, that chief every day goes to work and has to think that in his job that they go home every day. And it's selfishly, I'm finding it very selfish to think that this is just about the community. It is, absolutely, but it's very much so about these men and women on the board up here that go to work every day. I'm saying this from a guy who lives here, who cares about my community and the people that support it and serve it. They have to do a lot more today than we did 30 years ago when it came on. Like they said earlier, there's way more certifications and training required. They need to go home. They can't do their job as individual departments right now. They're a dumpster fire, car fire, maybe a room of content fire department. Half their force is getting water. They don't have water. They have bad roads. They have other things up here that we don't deal with off the hill. They do a great job. I love every one of them. They're my brothers and my sisters. It hurts my heart to think that a community would not stand behind what they want. Absolutely what they want and need. They're crying for help. Together, these three departments can come together and they can provide the service that we need, the service that they want to provide, and the service that we deserve. I'm in the trenches every day. I do what they do, and it just hurts my heart to think a community would even think selfishly enough to say, we're going to keep it the old way. We want an old patch. I'm just absolutely excited for this, and I hope in my heart that you vote and you listen to the people that do the job. They're there when you call. And I think there's a gross misunderstanding to the public of what they need, and the vote does not reflect. 132 votes shy, that's not that many. And there are so many misinformation things out there, it just dumbfounded me. So I very much support this. I'm here to support this, and I hope that the board takes to heart that it's about the men and women in that wall right there. And I have lost several good friends in my career. I don't want to see any of these go through what I have to go through, had to go through in my career. They need the help, give it to them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ham. That'll lead us to Ms. Weinfeld.
I'm an Oak Creek resident. I'm the proud wife of Captain Weinfeld here. I really appreciate your comments about them coming home. I'm here this evening to speak to you once again in absolute support of unification of our fire district with Inter Canyon and North Fork fire districts, and to urge this board to vote for exclusion. I'd like to remind everyone in this room that a third-party study found that combining the surrounding fire district was, in fact, not only what was best as far as emergency service to this community, but also the most fiscally responsible and efficient way to handle increasing demands on the local fire and EMS service. There have been complaints that this is not democratic or that it's not the will of the people, so I want to address these issues, and it is explicitly found in Title 32. CRS 32-1-102 is the legislative declaration. Please read it. Part 1 clearly states the intent. Part 4 goes on to explain consolidation of special districts, which the fire service is, or this fire district is. CRS 32-1-501 explains the exclusion that we are talking about here tonight, the exclusion and inclusion processes at length. Please familiarize yourself with this. As previous folks have said, consolidation in and of itself did not require a vote by the electors. The question of increasing your mill levy, your taxes, is required to be put forth to the voters, which is what happened last year by all three fire districts. This current legal process is clearly defined in Title 32. People keep saying the board is ignoring the will of the people, but the opposition is ignoring what the law actually says. Claims that operations and response times will suffer and resources will be strained are unsubstantiated. In fact, Chief Ware consistently reports that Elk Creek requires more mutual aid from all neighboring departments at the rate of 2 to 1, sometimes 3 to 1, more than we provided lately. Unification will increase efficiency in operations and help us not take advantage of our neighbors. Claims of fiscal negligence cannot be taken seriously from a board member who cost the district 63% of their total legal allocations on CORA requests alone. Now that board member and his group threaten to sue this district for legally attempting to serve our community better. How is that a good use of our tax dollars? How is that fiscal transparency? Have these people considered that they are standing in the way of better protecting our community? That is a threat to the health, safety, and well-being of our residents. Not one time has anyone of the opposition ever produced evidence, pointed to specific rules or laws, or ever been able to sufficiently back up their statements. please do what is best for the whole of these communities, for the fire
Thank you, Ms.
districts,
Weinfeld.
and for the personnel
Thank
on
you,
that
Ms.
wall
Weinfeld.
who so willingly and selflessly serve
Thank you,
all of
Ms.
the
Weinfeld.
people.
Your time has elapsed. That'll take us to, and forgive me, I think it's Jose, J-O-S-I?
Oh, Mike Yossi?
Josie? I'm sorry, sir. Bad eye?
It works. Perhaps I just scribbled, who knows. I just have 2 points that I would like to address. I live on Riley Peak, just up this road here. This fire station is exactly 5 miles from my house. And one worry I have is that with the command moving to Morrison, that this fire station will be closed, and I will have a very hard time with the people down in the corridor that we will be able or will not be able to get adequate insurance for our houses. So that's one point I would ask you to consider. The other point that I would ask you to consider is that the people expected to vote on this unification, however it is exactly executed, and the people that paid for all this said no. And I would just ask you to respectfully respect that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That'll lead us to Mr. Cole. Les Cole. Les Cole. I can read this one. Okay. And finally, Mr. Long. David Long. Yes, sir. Step forward.
My name is David Long. My grandparents were instrumental in forming this fire department. I have in the past been against this consolidation, but I listened to what's going on. And I put a note on Facebook at one time, and I reread all the comments that came back from it. And I think I've changed my mind. I think this consolidation would be good for our community, for Elkhart Fire Department and North Fork Fire Department both. I thank you for your time, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Long. I want to give 2 last opportunities for Chris, I believe Warren. Chris, first name or last name begins with W. And then finally, Les Cole. Les Cole. All right, that ends our signed up participants for public comment. And I will now ask those on Zoom, if you wish to speak, if you would, in the chat box, please enter your first and last name. Ms. Urban will then tell me, actually, you want to just go first come, first serve?
Yeah, so far there's none that have put in
Okay,
the chat box.
and I don't think we've given instruction on
One
Zoom.
more opportunity.
Yes, so anybody on Zoom, if you would, in the chat box, please type your first and last name. And I'll give you about a minute to do so. I'm not seeing anything. Last chance, anybody on Zoom, if you wish to speak publicly via Zoom, please type in your name, first and last name. Ms. Urban, I think we've given an appropriate amount of time, so I'm going to call it. So we're going to close all public hearing. To proceed, it would be best for us, I believe, as president, to accept the motion for approval of Resolution 2024-9 and order of exclusion for North Fork unification so that we can move into discussion.
So moved.
There is a motion by Director Devaney. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Second by Director Wood. Motion by Director Devaney, second by Director Woods, to accept the 2024-9 resolution and order of exclusion, the North Fork Unification. Discussion on the motion.
I'm going to have discussion. I'm going to vote in favor of this resolution, and I want to make sure everyone knows why I'm voting in favor of it. So I'm asking to speak.
By all means, for discussion on the motion.
It's really important for me to outline the reasons why I'm voting in favor of this resolution. I've listened to all of you. I actually kept score of for and against. So kind of a vote. There were 14 for and 5 against, and 1 wasn't sure. One of the fours represented 53 residents. So if we were to take a vote in this room, it sounds like the vote would be in favor. So I have 2 reasons, very serious reasons, very special reasons for saying that we should vote in favor, that the board should vote in favor of this. First one is safety for the residents of Elk Creek, North Fork, and Inner Canyon. It's one big happy family, so to speak. The second reason, which is noted continuously by one of our board members, the mill levy of the Unified District. I'm not sure how anyone could possibly believe we would be less safe. The plan is to have 6 more full-time firefighters. 6 more. Now, the consolidation asked for 18. That was with the mill levy increase. But without the mill levy increase, we're saying we're going to do 6 more career firefighters. We'll still have volunteers. They'll still be here. But we're going to pay for 6 more career firefighters. They will be housed at Turkey Creek Station, at Inner Canyon Station 2 on Turkey Creek. They will service the entire community from there, just like the firefighters at this station will service the entire community. And just for the record, this station and none of the other stations are going away. So the person that lives on top of Thornby Peak, the station here will service Thornby Peak, along with, if necessary, the 6 firefighters in Turkey Creek, along with the volunteers that we have. Let's go over why this is important. 60+% of our calls, and probably more than those in Inner Canyon, are 285 accidents. Chief, correct me if I'm wrong. 60% accidents on 285.
We're about 63% EMS. Out of those, it's probably closer to 35 to 40% without looking for motor vehicle accidents.
Oh, so EMS. I stand somewhat corrected. Accident. So let's paint the picture. There's an accident on 285 at Richmond Hill. Vehicle going northbound. They're in a hurry to get to work. It's in the morning, right? So an ambulance is dispatched. In today's world, an ambulance is dispatched, probably from this station, if there's an ambulance available. Could be from another station, but an ambulance is dispatched. One call, that would come to Elk Creek. Not North Fork, not Inner Canyon, but Elk Creek. So the ambulance is dispatched, but wait a minute, another call comes in. There's another accident on 285. That never happens, right? True, right? No, not true. There's accidents on 285 all the time. People drive fast. So, second ambulance goes out on call. Could be this station, could be Inner Canyon, because we call it from mutual aid, but that call probably comes to Elk Creek when they dial 911. So it's a really bad accident. That second accident is really bad. Bear with me a little bit. I'm going to get to a point. So, there's a North Fork. This is in today's world. There's a North Fork ambulance going back to their station. They're coming from Swedish. So they're headed southbound on 285 from Swedish. And when that call goes into Elk Creek for that accident, North Fork ambulance doesn't know anything about it. And they might see the accident on the other side of the road, but they're going to go right on by because they weren't called. It's an ambulance, right? It's a bad accident. So by the time they get the mutual aid call, they might already be at their station, which is in Pine, Buffalo Creek, that area. So they would be 30 minutes away from that bad accident. So another mutual aid call goes out to Intercanyon. So wait a minute. Intercanyon has an ambulance out too. So this is the whole story that we heard earlier with overlapping calls and the fact that mutual aid takes time. So instead of quickly getting to the two accidents, they're pretty far apart in terms of time. So in a unified district, let's talk about that. Same accidents, two accidents, right? One call goes to everybody in the unified district. So that ambulance that's driving home from Swedish on 285, that ambulance knows there's an accident. And that ambulance knows to stop at that accident. So 3 minutes to that accident instead of 9 to 12 minutes to that accident. To me, that makes a big difference. It's like, why would you not want unification where one call alerts the entire unified district so that it takes 3 minutes to get to your accident as opposed to 9 minutes? So this is what I find hard to believe, that people don't want to approve unification. I'm voting in favor, we already established that. Second, let's talk about mill levy. There's been misinformation floating around that the mill levy for the unified district will be North Fork's 2024 mill levy of 12.891. Well, gosh darn, that's wrong information, because North Fork just voted for their mill levy for 2025 at 12.0. So all of you, when we unify, your mill rate is going down, not up. So therefore, one last thing, I believe the firefighters. I believe Flip that stood up. I believe Mr. Fulham that stood up with the information from the firefighters, people on the wall. They want unification because they think they can do their jobs better and they can service our community better. So I believe the firefighters, not the one board member and his followers. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Woods. Any other discussion on the motion?
I'll speak. So I'm voting in favor of unification. However, I would like to clarify that with many of you in this room, when I first heard about unification, I had the same thought. I thought, hold on a minute, voters voted this down. That's not what we're talking about. And I spent the time to educate myself and to ask the professionals who serve our community, who serve us, as someone who has had to make the call, as someone who has had to wait the response time, as someone who has had to contemplate losing my spouse and everything that I know and who I am and where I live, and relied on this district to support me and to be there for me. I listened to those people and they said, this is what we need to be able to move into the future to provide sustainable support for this community. As we grow, this is what we need to do. And I rely on the professionals, and that is why I will be voting in favor of unification.
Thank you, Ms. Baker. Any other discussion on the motion?
Yeah, so I will, Director Bixley, I will read a statement into the record.
Yes, sir.
If that's permitted. So there's been a lot of misinformation here tonight. And I too have done my due diligence and studied this issue very, very carefully. And after due diligence, for the following 3 reasons, I will be voting no on this resolution in order of exclusion. The first reason is that during the November 2023 ballot election, by a vote of 51% no and 49% yes, Elk Creek FPD voters rejected the then consolidation plan proposed by the district. Now, in my view, critically, the current consolidation plan, the resolution that we're talking about, voting for or against tonight, ignores and subverts the will of the people, the voters, the taxpayers, the people that pay our salary, the reason that we do what we do. And that situation does undermine our local democracy, and it has created division among the community and on this board. And that's very unfortunate. It didn't have to be this way. My second reason is that the current consolidation plan, as it was written out by legal counsel Camille, and I assume in cooperation with the other attorneys for the districts, will move all of our properties into the North Fork district, which, contrary to what Ms. Woods says, has taxing authority, not a mill rate. Mill rates can be set up or down. In fact, we could zero tonight with the vote of this board. We could set our mill levy to zero. The important thing, according to the law, is not the mill levy per se, but the mill taxing authority. And that taxing authority in North Fork would set our mill levy, or could set our mill levy, to 12.896. And that's due to a ballot measure that North Fork put out to its electorate in 2018. It was number 7D. And so that taxing authority would be imposed potentially on Elk Creek FPD property owners. And that's contrary to not only Title 32, but it's contrary to the Tabor Amendment to the Colorado Constitution. So that's why what we're contemplating here tonight is unlawful. And then the third reason that I have here for voting against this proposal is that this board has not, has actually failed to make findings for the approval of this inclusion per Title 32-1-501. The statute requires that we affirmatively find very key points, which we have not done either at the board level or at the district level. So that's my statement of opposition.
Thank you, Director Novi. And since every board member has spoken, Director Devaney, I'll give you a quick opportunity just to make sure we don't miss you.
Thank you, sir. I just want to take a few minutes to say, in my opinion, the unification of the Elk Creek Fire Department with Inner Canyon and North Fork represents a critical step towards strengthening our community's safety and resilience. I want to reiterate that no stations are being closed, no personnel are being released. We will continue to have volunteer firefighters across the board, and we will continue to advocate for volunteer firefighters. But by combining resources, personnel, and expertise, we enhance our ability to respond effectively to emergencies, to reduce redundancy, and to impose an operational efficiency. This collaboration ensures a more consistent service to all of the community, in particular Elk Creek, but the corridor as well. The calls are not decreasing, as any of your volunteer and paid firefighter crews can testify. Your call volume is going up. I would like to be in front of this curve rather than behind it and jeopardize additional lives and property. Thank you, fellow directors, for your comments. Thank you to all of the community that came out and spoke, both for and against. Personally, I read every single email, and I thank everybody for their participation.
Thank you, Director Green. I only have one thing. Chief, I just need a point of information. And if you could elaborate just a little bit. Of course. Has anything changed? Is there any reason why this board should consider any other process? Can you elaborate on anything that you and Chief Sherlaw and Chief, forgive me, Kurt, Rogers have worked on? I just want to make sure before we go into this vote that I have every piece of information.
No, nothing that we've presented in the past? Or, no, I mean, we're still, well, that's not true. When we were talking about consolidation last year, we were changing some of our service model. We were changing some of the fire station locations. We are not changing any of the fire station locations. We're not closing any fire stations. We are keeping this station. One of the big changes that will happen here is we're going to move to more operational staff here. We're going to have more firefighters out of this station, which is a change. But other than that, for the most part, no. That's about what it's been. I mean, so we did make some changes from last year when we first started looking at this about 4 years ago. There have been several iterations, but the big thing is we're not changing any of the staffing. We're going to just be increasing it.
Anything else you'd like to add?
May I speak on the resolution?
I'd like the information, please.
Perfect. All right. Well, so I'm going to throw down some history that the fire departments had. We've had a colorful history at best. In 1948, some of the residents of this area decided they needed fire protection, so they built the Elk Creek Fire Department. Dave Long, who spoke, his family, they were the founders. On that, we've got the founders list somewhere. Look at who's on it. You know, Rudy Long. The Long family built this fire department, or what we are today. They responded to fire and rescue emergencies in the area. In the late 70s, this was a fully volunteer fire department. There were no career staff. In the late 70s, one of the first large, I guess, dramatic events involving the board started to happen. In 1978, there was an idea to allow female firefighters. This was attacked by residents. This was attacked by some of the firefighters. The board it was going to destroy the fire service, diminish service, et cetera, et cetera. It actually went to the Colorado Supreme Court, which is kind of funny. Lo and behold, it did not destroy anything. It actually increased service. Late 70s, along with that, the fire department decided they needed to start providing EMS. We got a surplus ambulance and started providing EMS services. Fast forward to 1992. In 1992, the department realized they could no longer meet the service needs of this district with a fully volunteer staff. And this met with a lot of opposition. Talking to the old timers that were around back then, it was quite the show, much like the show we've been seeing over the last couple of years. They actually hired professional firefighter paramedics. One of them's in this room, Steve Brown. He's still around, and he can tell you the stories. There were people that were very unhappy about it because, again, it was changing the dynamic. It was looking towards the future. And it was going to destroy the fire department, you know, et cetera, get rid of all the volunteers, all the tired old stories that don't make any sense. And the first professional firefighters, EMS providers, they were working 40 hours a week, and they were day responders. In 1996, the chief realized that that didn't work because the fire service is a 24/7 service. People don't just call 911 during the day. 9 to 5 does not work. And so in 1996, the move was made to have 24/7 staffing with 2 career firefighter EMS providers. That was met with tremendous opposition. There was a board member who actually took out full paid ads in the newspaper opposing it. People were losing their minds because, again, you were going to destroy the volunteer fire service, you were going to destroy this fire department, et cetera, et cetera. We're still here. That was the beginning of the combination fire department that we have did. We have today. In 2015, it was recognized by the chief that we needed more paid staffing, so we started adding more paid staffing. All of these changes were due to the responsibility of the fire chief and the board to meet the service needs for the residents of this fire protection district. The need was recognized and the board acted on it. This board is responsible for making you guys are responsible for making sure people who call 911 have the best service. It doesn't matter career, volunteer, it doesn't matter who it is. People of this district deserve the best possible service. Those historical moments in the 90s, this is another historical moment. This is probably the most important board meeting you'll ever have. And I hope you make the courageous decision to act on this. You're going to set us up for the future, for a sustainable agency. That is what I have.
Thanks for that point of information, Chief. I appreciate it. I don't normally vote unless there is a tie, and I will take the liberty as president to speak in favor of this motion. 7 years ago, when I stepped before this board, and there was nobody attending these meetings. It was no one, compared to what, well, besides Sharon, there was my apologies. I swore to this community that I was going to do everything that I could to provide the safest fire department that we could to ensure that our citizens had the services that they needed. That's the reason I joined this payless position that I sit at and work on 40 hours a week as a volunteer. I don't do what the volunteer firefighters do, but I work to try to ensure that you as a community have the services that will ensure that your family is protected, that that fire is put out, that that auto accident on 285 isn't going to cause you any harm. It is our goal as directors to do what is right for you. If you don't like the fact that I'm going to plead with my fellow directors to vote in favor of this unification to increase the safety of our fine community and these 3 fire protection districts, to ensure that we have a better chance, that those young ladies and men that are serving this community every day sworn can go home to their families, that their families are safe, that our community is safe, and we can do what is best not to lose this entire neighborhood development and community to some huge fire because we have the opportunity to respond immediately. I encourage you to vote in favor of this motion for the safety of those men and women on the wall, for the safety of those firefighters in the back, and in the safety of every individual that is sitting next to you. The fine members of this community that may not have wanted consolidation, but should realize the importance of unification. And nothing got me more passionate about this until Mr. Long stepped up and said that he has reconsidered his opinion about the importance of unification and how this can benefit the community. I have nothing left. That's the end of our discussion, and I will again, there was a motion made by Director Devaney, seconded by Director Woods, that this board approve Resolution 24-09, the resolution of order of exclusion, North Fork unification. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I will vote in favor. Against?
No.
That is 4-4, 1 against. The resolution and order of exclusion for North Fork unification is approved. There is no other items on our agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Director Wood, second by Director Baker. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your cordial and professional behavior tonight.